Herzlich willkommen auf dem lösungsorientierten Vernetzungsportal Living Earth. Hier auf der Living Earth beleuchten wir jeden Monat ein bestimmtes Thema von den unterschiedlichsten Seiten, um dann das neu gewonnene Wissen, die praktischen Erfahrungen und Anwendungen in unserem Alltag und in unsere Projekte zu integrieren. So erschaffen wir gemeinsam, Schritt für Schritt, die neue lebendige Erde.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Living Earth. Today I have an amazing guest with me. I met her husband and her friend in Ansbach, where we had this fancy ecstatic dance festival, and they were there and they did a mind-blowing job. You know, we took 2 or 3 sessions with them, and we were so amazed about the work, and it goes so deep. And so we made the decision that we invite them to our Breathwork month. Welcome, Siv. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me. It was amazing meeting you guys there. It was like a gift meeting you. So yeah, thank you so much. I loved hanging out with you guys. It was so fun our conversations, everything. It was beautiful.
It was so beautiful. It was like we met part of our family, part of our roots. It was very natural and normal, and it was really, 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 really beautiful. Yeah, you and your husband Jason and married founded together a company. It's named Integrated Human. What does this mean? What does integrated human means?
It has meaning on many levels. How can we say it? It has meaning in terms of us putting together an amazing amount of material that Jason, my husband, and I have learned over many, many years. We both started meditating when we were children.
Really? When you were children, how? Okay, I put it in my mind. Okay, go on.
So we met at university, which was a university that was very also promoting a lot of meditation and having this as a part of their program. And so over the years, we have experienced a lot of different ways to shape ourselves. We've always been interested in how to have the most out of this experience called life. How can you get the most out of being a human being? How can you deepen your experience, your understanding, and your ability to take in this life, you know? And so we've been always going to the next thing. When we saw something that caught our interest, we were like, okay, let's dive in. And we would always go deep. There was never any, oh, let's try a little bit here and a little bit there. It's like when we went into something, we usually stuck with their systems for maybe, well, sometimes many years. So we really gained a lot of deep understanding from many points of view. So we are in the deep belief that there is no one path. There is no one thing that is correct for everyone. Each path is unique. Each human is unique. So we all have our own journey to travel. So integrated human, I guess, would integrate a lot of this knowledge that we have from the East, from the West, and from so many different techniques and teachers and science. We both have a bachelor's in biology. I also have a master's in physiology, and we're both chiropractors, so we have a strong science background. So all of this, you can almost say that science is the new language. This is to describe the mystical in life, because we're starting to understand what's going on in our bodies, what's going on in nature, and how everything is integrated. And when you look at this all together, it becomes kind of big. And also it's about integrating your own process, as you develop as a human being, to not just superficially go into this and that and kind of float on the feel good stuff that a lot of the alternative world is providing, without actually looking at yourself, without actually being honest and seeing inside yourself, what is it that, where can I find deeper values? What do I have to change in myself to understand more, to have a deeper experience of life, to understand my surroundings better, to understand my own part in my surroundings better? How can I, if I want something in my life, who do I have to be in order to get that in my life? It's not like I have a wish list. I want this. Manifestation is so popular now also, and it's great, and it's great to have goals and things you want to work towards, of course, but we also have to change inside in order to achieve those goals. So how do we do that? And the courage it takes to look at yourself, to kind of dive into that and work with that. So integrated human is a platform, or a environment, I guess is better to call it, of opportunities to find ways to look at yourself and change it, to discover what it is that you have in yourself that is blocking you from moving on. If it's unworthiness or self-doubt, or and sometimes these programs that we have inside are so small, they're so tiny, and they work in the background and you don't even know it. Mm-hmm. And it's stopping you from taking the steps or making the choices consciously. You make a lot of choices without being aware that you're even making a choice, but you're doing it. So it's a process of becoming aware, increasing your awareness of your own choices, your own actions, your own thoughts, your own emotions, and how they're all creating these programs that runs your life in the background. So we're trying to create more awareness so you can choose who you want to be and how you want to live.
That's so beautiful. Wow. Really interesting. You said that you meditated and also chosen as a child. Okay, you grow up in a family where meditation was normal?
Yes.
Oh,
oh
wow, how lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. It's really amazing. It's we both grew up in families where meditation was sought after. We both had parents that was seeking deeper life experiences, seeking ways to get answers to some of the difficult questions in life, and try to transform themselves. So we were both lucky that way to, yeah. They brought us along on their journey. So it was very natural for us to kind of continue that. And we were lucky enough to meet.
Wow, amazing. In Entdecke, we had the possibility and also the honor to work with you, and you combine tremoring with breathwork. Can you explain a little bit these two different parts and how and why you bring them together?
Well, it started with I guess it started with chiropractic. I'm a chiropractor. I'm very interested in the mind-body connection. I always have been, and I always have looked so much at how the mind influences our body, how our emotions influences our body, and creates a lot of trouble for us in terms of pain and tension and difficulty thinking and feeling clearly. So I was always interested in techniques that would also address this. And we had a conference. I was responsible for the continuing education for the Norwegian chiropractors. And we were having a conference about the autonomic nervous system. And we brought in Dr. David Berselli. He developed a technique called tension and trauma releasing exercises, which is basically a way to cause what we call a neurogenic tremor in the body. It makes you tremor, like shiver, but not by voluntary action. It's an involuntary action. You have certain movements and body positions where you can move the body from doing a motor movement, a movement that you decide that you want to do with your conscious mind, and we're switching it so you can get into your, and that the tremor switches from being a conscious movement to an unconscious movement. So we switch your mind, your brain, your frontal lobe, your conscious awareness is kind of toned down, and you go into the autonomic nervous system and allow it to work through your body for you. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. It's like your body's innate mechanism for healing, for releasing tension, for creating new solutions. It's a thing that causes or is run by your autonomic nervous system. It's in every mammal. And it's, if you know the brainstem, it sits right in the back here. That's the seat of your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system runs all the automatic processes in your body. Your breathing, your heartbeat, your immune system, your hormonal system, all of that is run by that. That's also the seat of your unconscious mind. So your subconscious is sitting right there in the autonomic nervous system. So is tremoring, the neurogenic tremoring. So if you have, let's say you have a trauma or a stressful situation that you've experienced, and you can't stop thinking about it, and maybe you don't want to think about it because it has a lot of uncomfortable, painful emotions associated with it. So you try to push it away. And you say, I don't want to deal with this. I want to push it away. And it creates a tension pattern in your body. And then you go to a therapist and you try to release this, or you go to a psychologist and you try to unwind this in your mind. But the psychologist goes back in time and can explain to you, yes, this is why it happened. This is why you have this reaction in the way you're behaving, or this fear, or whatever it is. Or you go to a massage therapist or chiropractor or a medical doctor, and they will say, oh yes, yeah, you can have this in your body because you've had this experience. And then you go, then what? You know what's there in the past, but how do you get to it? If it's a reaction that is so deep, it's like a automatic response. You can't address it only from your mind. Your mind is brilliant in trying to understand why, but then you also have to address it from where it's rooted in your autonomic nervous system. And all mammals have this. You can see in the wild, if an animal is being chased by another animal, and almost caught, but survives and gets to escape, you will see that animal start to shake. It's beautiful. And then they shake and they shake and they shake until the body can relax, and they get up and they move along and everything is fine. I had this amazing thing happen with a patient once. She was on her way to an appointment with me, and she drove off the road. And everything, it was slippery, it was in the winter, everything was fine, but the car was spinning off the road and on into a field. And she managed to get to the appointment a little later, but she came into the office. I said, you have to come so we can address this right away. She said, she stepped out of the car and she had her mobile phone in her hand, and she was trying to dial the number to get help, right? And her hand was shaking like this, and she couldn't hit the buttons. And I was looking at her and I said, oh my God, that's great. And she Yeah, and she was like, oh my God, you're crazy. It's really great because it's your body that is trying to release the tension of the experience of spinning off the road. Even though that everything went well and you ended up in a field, you lost control, you know. So I told her, why don't you just now go home? I checked her and treated her and released what I could. And I said, go home now and lay down and just try to connect to that feeling that you had when you stepped out of the car and your body was shaking like that. Just find it in your body, find where that feeling was. And I told her a little bit about how she could position herself to make it easier. And she did. She went home and she went into that, and her body started to shake like that naturally. And I told her, when it starts, just relax into it. And if it gets too much, just stand up, walk around, and go back into it for a little bit. And she did, and she came back. And the interesting thing was that she had no stress with it. She had no tension patterns in her body, even though her car was spinning. It was not rolling. So she was, but you counterbalance, you try to gain control, you get really tense, and you might get thrown around in there a little bit. But she had no symptoms from it afterwards. Nothing. It was beautiful. It was like a perfect example of the body instantly trying to heal itself through its own inborn mechanism that we all have. It's our genetic inheritance. It's our one of the ways that the body releases tension. And
it's very important that you tell us this story, because I'm 100% sure that the most people doesn't know that this happenings has a deep reaction on a body, a physical level. I think the most people are not aware of this.
No, they're not. And in most societies, it's actually suppressed, because once you start shivering, it's looked upon as a sign of weakness. You don't want to look weak. You don't want to look afraid. You don't want to look nervous. Like if you're on stage and your hands start shaking, you put them in your pocket or on the podium or behind your back. You do something to hide it, because you don't want to show that you're nervous. So there are some primal cultures that still has it, especially related to childbirth, where they're considering that the birthing process is not finished until the mother has stopped tremoring after birth.
Okay.
It's quite common to tremor after birth, and many women have experienced this. And usually at the hospital, they will come and they think, oh, you're cold, let me give you another cover, and try to because it's cold, right? It's not about being cold. It doesn't feel that way. But some also experience that the hospital staff will come over and say, if you can stop it, try to stop it, instead of encouraging it to just go its course and release that tension, that experience that you just had giving birth, because it's a powerful experience, and your nervous system needs to discharge it to release it, to kind of neutralize it. And this is one of the ways
sorry. So we can use it for two different things. We can use it in an active way when something happens now. I can use it in a conscious way to start it, but we also can release old stuff out of our body, tensions and traumas and all this stuff.
And it's very interesting because you don't need to know what it is. The body is releasing the tension. Sometimes you can get memories or an idea about what it is. I remember once I was teaching a course, and there was one person there who was only tremoring in the hand, which is kind of unusual. And usually you see it in the corpus of the body, in the legs a lot. But he was just tremoring in the hand, and he was working on his hand the whole weekend. It was fascinating. And all of a sudden we hear this eureka from this person, and I says, now I know what it is. And it was him falling off the swing when he was 5 years old, breaking his arm. That's what was coming out. And for some reason, this was such a traumatic, it could be that a lot of things happened around this accident that he didn't share. But yeah, that one was his body working. I remember once we had a lady who was a motorcycle test driver. She was test driving motorcycles on high-speed courts. And one of the things that her body was doing was like she was tremoring in her hand, because that's, I guess, the gas of the clutch or something like that. I don't know anything about motorbikes, but I have so many stories about how the body releases tension patterns from accidents, from surgeries, from like things that they've been doing a lot that is very intense in work, from emotions that they have experienced. But they don't always know what it is. Sometimes you discover it afterwards, but if you don't know what it is and you don't discover it afterwards, it's fine. The most important thing is that the body is releasing it. It's taking the charge out of whatever tension pattern it is that you're holding. And the interesting part is that many people, if they have a traumatic experience, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it at all. But after they've experienced neurogenic tremoring, they can talk about it because the emotional charge has been lowered enough so it doesn't hurt so much. And then you can talk about it and integrate it and kind of heal it also in your mind and your body and your emotions. You know, you get the whole structure on all levels. And I just love that about tremoring.
I love it, you know, since I discovered it with you, it's, I would say, 1.5 months ago. I use it, you know, I use it on a regular basis, even when I'm stressed, when I feel, oh, there's too much tension in my body. I use it, I name it, I make the butterfly, and then it starts immediately.
Yes.
And it's so helpful, and also, you know, in the combination with the breath, it's pure magic. So let's go into the breath. Why do you think that the breath is one of our biggest instruments to heal ourselves?
Well, the breath is also located kind of in the brainstem. Your breathing rhythm is located in the brainstem, so it's also an access point to the autonomic nervous system. Mm-hmm. So they kind of meet there. The tremoring and the breath meet there. For me, it was, I've been teaching, I don't know, lots of people. I've been teaching this for 16 years, the tremoring part. And we started setting up regular groups and got to see how it was working over time. And I got really interested in the breathing because you can modulate the intensity of the tremoring with the breathing. Sometimes emotions, well, let me just kind of rephrase a little bit to kind of get to the whole thinking part. When people come out of a session with tremoring, one of the comments that we get a lot is, oh my God, my mind is quiet. How long will this last? People are asking. So I'm like, okay, so the mind gets so quiet on so many people. That would mean that we probably go into like an alpha, maybe deeper levels of brainwaves, where the mind is very more quiet, is a meditative state. So based on that experience with so many people, I was like, okay, now if we get into that state that easily with tremoring, it would be a prime state to be able to speak to the subconscious mind. So then I trained in hypnotherapy in order to better understand the subconscious mind and better be able to speak to it when you already have people in that state. And then I learned about heart math, which is a breathing technique and also an emotional technique, where they had put these two things together. And of course, during the tremoring, I was using breathing, but in order to help soften the process and get people to stay in touch with it and not start mind wandering. You know, you stay with the body, you stay with the breath. And heart math really intrigued me a lot. And I realized I need to understand the breath much more. And that's when Somograph came along, and I trained in Somograph. So all of these things started being moved together into one, how I can say, session, I guess, where my current thought process around this is that breathing techniques has been shown to have a similar effect that some psychedelics do in terms of turning off your default mode network in the brain, which is basically, to put it very simple, it's a part of your brain that shapes your personality to a certain degree. It frames you as a person, and it's created at young age in your forming years. And once that's created, it's more difficult to get out of that framework. You're kind of set in your ways. But breathing softens the default mode network. Tremoring is a way for your nervous system to find a new solution. It's like you're activating your system, you're activating your body and your nervous system to release the tension, but also to find new patterns. It's fascinating to see a body work and tremor, because when you get to see, especially people who do it over time, to see how new, like old patterns just release and then new movements come out, and they're so smooth and so refined, and it's amazing. The nervous system finds new levels of operation. So by combining these two things, and then putting in a guided meditation to access elevated emotions like HeartMath is talking about, I think this is like an incredibly powerful tool to work with reshaping how you operate and to release yourself from these programs that we're all exposed to and get during our upbringing, during our media exposure, during our all the social stuff that we're told what is right, what is wrong, how should you be, how should you look, how should you behave, how should you act, what education you should have, how you should think, all of these shoulds to be kind of a part of society, a part of this tribe functions that of course we all have. Instead of just being totally controlled and run by that, you can choose yourself based on how you actually feel, because then you can clear away all these created pathways that are not your own. So you actually get into touch with your core, who you want to be, who you want to choose to be as a human being here, connecting with other human beings.
It's so amazing. And, you know, we felt it. You know, we made this, I made 2 sessions, and my friends did three sessions with you. It was so different. And, you know, I felt in these 2 sessions, I also met my little inner child, and I realized, you know, what's going on. And I was crying a little bit, but it was not like having pain with it. It was like releasing it in a really gentle and really nice way. And I really was, till now I am, fascinated about the easiness. You know, I always said everything what works must be easy. And this seems a really, really easy way to come in contact with you, with your true self, with your soul, however you want to name it. It's so magical and beautiful, and I'm so thankful to meet you. And I hope you will bring this technique to the world, because it's so needed. because it's easy, you can do it in a short amount of time, and you can use the technique for your daily life. It's so easy.
And it's I love what you said about the gentleness of it, because that's often something that we can see, especially when we're working in groups, that for some people a lot of emotion come up, and a lot of painful emotion come up, and sometimes you can see that this is strongly encouraged where you have a massive release of expressive emotion, strong body movements in a cathartic fashion. And this can be necessary sometimes. But from my experience, you can soften that so much so that you can actually, instead of just like pushing it out of you, that I see a lot of people do, it's almost like you gently let it go and realize that all of these patterns at some point served you. At some point, it was there for a reason. So it did some kind of service to you, even if it was just once. So instead of just like pushing it out like something I don't want you anymore, you can gently release it, and the whole experience becomes more soft, and it comes from the heart, and you can it's almost like you can release it with almost like a sense of gratitude, at least in pieces. And it's much easier than for the body to integrate it and allow it to become wisdom. For me, wisdom is an experience without the emotional charge, because then you can share that experience with other human beings, and your understanding that you gained through that experience without the pain. Of course, we'll never forget what we experience. We'll never forget them. But to be able to live with those experiences without the pain, and then being able to support other people through their experiences, because you can stand in your own as a more whole human being. I love the gentleness of it when we use the tremoring and the breathing together, and it becomes kind of like a wave. You can go in and out, and you tremor and you release, and then you use the breath and you integrate and you rest, and we do workshops where we do this over much longer times than we did in Entdecke, and becomes a very integrated process. And then also with Jason, what we're going to do in Munich
Yes, I would say 26th of October, you are there in Munich.
It's then we're going to really have some amazing fun with it, because then Jason's going to first have a talk where he uses his Socratic process in order to help you discover some of these subconscious programs that we are running, some of the things that you do, some of the what's behind the scenes in your subconscious mind that makes you make the choices, do the behaviors, have the thought patterns, feel the emotions, the negative self-talk, all of that, what's behind there. So he helps you go through this discovery process and work that out. And then we're going to use tremoring to so I'm going to be teaching tremoring on a much fuller scale than what we did in Entdecke, a much deeper understanding of how it actually works in your nervous system. And then we're going to incorporate the discoveries that the participants are making into the tremoring process. So it's going to be really exciting. We're really looking forward to that.
Yes, we put it in the description where it is and how you can apply for it. Yeah. Can you, Siv, can you can you give us an example how we can activate the tremoring, how it's possible? You know, if someone want to try it, how we can do it? What's the easiest way to activate it?
The easiest way is, like you were saying, the butterfly position, where you're basically laying on your back with your knees bent, just like in an L shape like that, or yeah, with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. Then you turn your feet so the soles of your feet are facing each other like that, and that your knees are out like a V shape, like a butterfly. And you just relax there for a moment and feel that it's stretching a little bit on the inside of your thighs, especially. And then you can lift your pelvis off the floor, like you're standing in a bridge, and your feet are still like this. You don't put them flat, you keep them together like that. And you hold it there. And often your body will already then start to move, maybe a little softly back and forth, kind of like a wave motion. Or after a while, some people may also instantly feel like this, like tremoring, that is just like going. It's like, so you get this back and forth movement, and you get this like deep, like tremoring inside your pelvis, usually, or on the inside of your thighs. And then you just stay there for a little bit, and you go down and you rest a little bit, and you go up and you hold, and you go down and you rest a little bit. And after you can still feel that fine tremoring in your pelvis when your pelvis is resting on the floor. Then you can turn your feet from this position to flat on the floor. And you can just experiment a little bit there, see how that feels. If it stops when you put your pelvis down, you let your knees fall back out, and you can slowly raise them up like you're closing the butterfly wings. And then you will also find a point right in there where, oh, here it is, and it starts this fine tremor. Sometimes it's bigger like this. Sometimes the pelvis will move up and down. It's different for every person, and it's very often different from time to time. So this is why I like when I teach tremoring as for first timers. I really want to have them tremor at least twice during that course, because many experience it to be so different from one time to the other. Because you have to remember, this is your nervous system. Is your nervous system doing this? It's you shouldn't get your mind involved. You should just observe what's going on. Just kind of stay inside the tremor. Have your attention go to where in your body do you feel that tremoring? Where is it? And stay with it. Breathe into it, and just have all your awareness there. And then you experiment with the angles of your knees. Where do you increase it the most? How is it changing? You can move your feet further apart or closer together, depending. And you can just experiment and see if you can trigger it.
And it seems like that my body already knows it, you know, when I do the butterfly, you know, it's starting immediately. So it doesn't need to have the pelvis up like we did it in Angsbaka. So it's very quick, just a few seconds, and then it's going on, and then I lay down, and then, oh, come on, let's shake it out, baby.
Exactly, because it's already in your nervous system. It's in everybody's nervous system. So everybody can do it. You just have to remember how. So once you've gotten it going and you recognize it, after a while, it's different. Some people it's a little bit more difficult, because if they have a lot of analysis going on in their minds, it has a tendency to kind of stop it a little bit. But for most people, if you just relax into it, it's right there. It's yours. You already own it. You just need to open the door.
So beautiful. And we will have a live session in October. I also will connect it under in the description. So if you are now curious to feel it, how it works, the combination between the tremoring and the breath, so read in the description. We will have a live session with Siv, and then you can feel it. And we also record it, so if you can't be live in the session, you can do it later. So thank you so much, Siv. It's always such a pleasure having a talk with you. It's always going so deep. You know, I had lots of goosebumps while you are talking, because I think you reach the heart, and you have so much knowledge about it. You are so wise how you look at things. So it's such a pleasure having you in my life, and I'm looking forward to do many things together with you three. And thank you for your time. And maybe you want to have a last word or a last sentence to the audience.
I just want to thank you so much for having me, and it's such a pleasure to get to know you, and I'm so looking forward to having more conversations with you and hanging out and go deep into these topics, because there is so much. It's so exciting, and this human experience is so rich and so full, and there is so much here for us. So I'm so grateful to share this with you and with you all listening. So
thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. And if you have the feeling you want to share it with your neighbors, your family, your friends, with everyone in the world, do it. Just share it, because this knowledge has to go into the world. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and hopefully see you soon. Bye bye.
Auf der Living Earth teilen wir viele Lösungen wie diese, um gemeinsam eine neue, lebendige Erde zu gestalten. Schaue dir jetzt gleich das Video auf der Startseite an und finde heraus, was für andere wundervolle Dinge die Living Earth noch kann. Jeder Pionier ist wertvoll. Falls du also noch kein Pionier bist, komm, wir freuen uns auf dich.